Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen of my Alpha family. You didn't come this far to be tamed, and you sure as hell didn't rise from the ashes to bow to the world that once buried you. No, you came back for blood. You came back for the throne. And tonight, I remind you of who you are, because they laughed at you, didn't they? They mocked your fall, celebrated your silence, toasted to your failure like it was the end of your legend. They thought you were finished, but you were not destroyed. You were dormant, and in your silence, something darker was born, something colder, smarter, and more dangerous than ever before. You turned the game upside down with one move, just one, and the world still hasn't recovered from the shock. They never understood the kind of power that comes from losing everything, the kind of raw, unforgiving clarity that sharpens your soul when your back is against the wall and every so-called friend disappears like mist in the morning sun. They never understood that pain isn't just something you endure, it's something you use. You took that pain, that betrayal, that humiliation, and you forged it into a blade so sharp, so precise, it could slit the throat of fate itself. You didn't beg. You didn't explain. You moved in silence, and then, with one strike, you changed everything. They never saw it coming, because that's what happens when a predator plays dead. Everyone gets comfortable, until it snaps its jaws around their necks. You turned the game upside down with one move, one cold, calculated act that shattered the illusion they were safe. That move was not luck. That move was not chance. That move was born in sleepless nights and ruthless discipline, in sacrifice and in the cold fire of isolation. While they partied, you planned. While they talked, you trained. While they celebrated mediocrity, you carved your name into destiny. You became the architect of your own resurrection, the sculptor of your own revenge. And when the time came, you didn't hesitate. You struck, and the world screamed. There is a darkness in you that they tried to kill. They told you to calm down, to stay humble, to wait your turn. But you were never made to be tamed. You were made to lead, to dominate, to crush every boundary that dares to cage you. This is not a game for the weak. This is not a story for the gentle. This is a saga written in the blood of those who thought they could control you. They underestimated the storm, and now they drown in the flood of your return. Because when the real you came back, all bets were off. You didn't just walk into the room, you took over the entire building and burned the blueprint. They say power corrupts, but I say power reveals. And what you've revealed is terrifying. You've revealed a mind that doesn't forget, a will that doesn't bend, and a hunger that doesn't die. You've revealed the kind of intensity that makes kings kneel and tyrants tremble. You didn't ask for a second chance. You took it. You didn't wait for an invitation. You kicked the damn door down. And now they whisper your name with fear, because they know you're not just back. You're back with vengeance. You're back with vision. You're back with a score to settle, and you won't stop until the scales are broken. You turn the game upside down with one move, and the echoes of that moment will haunt your enemies for the rest of their days. They'll try to understand how it happened, try to explain it away with excuses and lies. But deep down, they know. They know they provoked something they cannot control. They poked the sleeping wolf, and now it's hunting season, and no one is safe. Because the move you made wasn't just about strategy, it was about sending a message that says, I am not who you thought I was. I am not your puppet. I am not your failure. I am not your victim. I am the storm. I am the reckoning. I am the final breath before the silence. You turned the game upside down with one move, and now the world doesn't know how to act around you. You've changed the temperature of every room you walk into. You've shifted the atmosphere, made people rethink their confidence, made giants second-guess their strength, because now they know what happens when you're pushed too far. Now they know what it looks like when the underestimated becomes unstoppable. They still don't know how to speak to you because you're no longer one of them. You've transcended their limits, violated their expectations, and humiliated their predictions. You became something they no longer have a word for. You became inevitable. And I want you to feel that for a second. Let it settle in your bones. The truth that you didn't need their approval to become a legend. You didn't need their validation to ignite your fire. You lit it yourself in the coldest nights, when nobody clapped, when nobody believed, when you stared at the abyss and smiled, because you knew this wasn't the end. This was your evolution. They'll call it arrogance now. They'll call it luck. They'll say it's unfair, but they weren't there. They didn't feel the knives in your back. They didn't hear the doors slam shut or the silence that followed when the world moved on without you. But you heard it, you felt it, and you built something from it that cannot be undone. Your one move was not a step. It was a declaration, a war cry, a reminder that you are not to be counted out, not to be forgotten, not to be dismissed like dust. You are the danger they ignored, the threat they laughed at. And now their laughter has died in their throats because you've arrived, and you're not asking permission anymore. Every setback you took was fuel. Every insult you swallowed was a match. Every betrayal, every loss, every sleepless night built up to this moment. And when you struck, it was not just a move. It was a thunderclap across their illusions. Now look around you. They walk carefully now. They speak softer when you enter. They avoid your eyes because they see something there they never expected. Clarity, ruthlessness, purpose. They see someone who doesn't flinch, someone who doesn't break. They see someone who remembers everything. And memory is dangerous when it's sharpened into a weapon. You remember every face that turned, every friend who vanished, every hand that pushed instead of pulled. You carry those memories not as wounds, but as armor. You wear them on your soul like scars turned to steel. You're not a survivor, you're a contender, a conqueror, the alpha. You turn the game upside down with one move, and now they scramble to catch up. You left them gasping in a world that no longer favors them. They built it for themselves, thought they had the rules nailed down, but the moment you flipped the board, they realized they were only kings in a game you no longer play. You broke the rules because you never belonged in their cage, and now you make the rules. And if they want to survive in your world, they better adapt fast, because the old you is gone. The nice version, the forgiving one. That soul is buried beneath the rage that made you reborn. They'll call you cold. Let them. They'll call you obsessed. Let them. They'll say you changed. Damn right you did. Because if you stayed the same, you'd still be crawling. Still be apologizing for existing. Still be handing your power to people who never deserved it. But not anymore. You've tasted the edge. You've felt what it's like to cut through the chains. And once you've had that, you don't go back. You don't shrink. You don't soften. You harden. You sharpen. You become the version of yourself that cannot be broken. Understand this. The game is forever changed. You didn't just win a round. You redefined what victory looks like. You became the blueprint for fear. You became the example they warn others about. They'll tell their protégés to never cross someone like you. You're the cautionary tale, the reason they pause before they strike. Because now they know, if you fall, you rise sharper. If you lose, you learn faster. If they leave you for dead, they better make sure you don't breathe again. Because if you do, you'll come back with hell behind your eyes. And don't think for 1 second, this is the end. This is only your beginning. One move changed everything. But the real story starts now, because the world will keep testing you. It will throw more storms your way, send more snakes to your table, try to lure you back into weakness with comfort and lies. But you're not the same person you were before. You've become immune to their traps. You've tasted betrayal and built your immunity on it. You've taken every hit and turned it into drive. And now there's no going back. There's no normal to return to. You were reborn in chaos, and that's where you thrive now. You don't need applause. You don't need eyes on you. You don't need anyone to clap or cheer. That's what makes you lethal. You're self-fed, self-made, self-sustained. They still don't get it. They think your silence means defeat, but your silence is the storm gathering. It's the eye of the hurricane before you crush everything in your path again. They should have finished you when they had the chance. They should have buried you deeper, but they failed. And now they watch you climb higher than they ever imagined possible. And every step you take is a reminder to them that their control is gone. Their game is over. You turned the game upside down with one move, and now your shadow walks ahead of you. Before you speak, they listen. Before you act, they prepare for war. You've become a myth in their minds, a symbol of the unthinkable. A person who rose not from mercy, not from favor, but from pure, unrelenting will. You weren't supposed to rise. You weren't supposed to fight back. And that's what terrifies them. Not that you're strong now, but that you were always this strong, and they never saw it. You were the storm they invited with their mockery. You were the reckoning they summoned with their arrogance. And now they choke on their own pride because you turned their certainty into chaos. They built their world on rules meant to control you. Be humble, be patient, be grateful for crumbs. But you spit on their rules and burn the script because you finally realize they only ask for humility when it benefits them. They only demand silence when the truth threatens to expose them. And when you refuse to play nice, when you tore off the mask and let your darkness breathe, they didn't know what to do. They thought you'd crack. But you didn't crack. You crystallized. You became unshakable. They wanted you to bend. Instead, you became the force that breaks. You turned the game upside down with one move because you understood something they never will. Pain is a forge, and you let it melt everything weak inside you until all that was left was steel. You stared into the eyes of hopelessness and did not blink. You smiled at the void and said, "Give me more." You swallowed fire and made it your fuel. And in the end, when the time came to strike, your vengeance wasn't emotional. It was surgical. You didn't explode. You executed. You didn't scream. You dismantled. That's what made your move so devastating. It wasn't born in noise. It was born in silence, in calculation, in control. There is something unnerving about power that doesn't speak. Something terrifying about a soul that no longer needs to prove itself. You walk with that now. That silence, that unshakable calm that makes people nervous. They see the fire in your eyes and they wonder, how much have you seen? How much have you survived to wear that kind of stillness on your face? And they're right to wonder, because you've walked through hell and came out leading the devil on a leash. You don't just endure anymore, you command. You don't ask for peace. You offer the illusion of it until it's time to strike again. You turn the game upside down with one move, and now people talk differently behind closed doors. They try to rewrite history, downplay your rise, pretend it wasn't as clean or as sharp or as final as it really was. But truth doesn't need their approval. It exists with or without them. And the truth is, you won, not by chance, not by mistake, but by inevitability. Because no force on earth can stop the soul that refuses to die. You were buried, yes, but seeds grow in dirt, and you grew into something they can no longer ignore, something they no longer have a strategy for. And now, the world has changed because of you. People who watched you from the shadows are waking up. They're remembering that they too can rise, that they too can sharpen the broken pieces of their lives into weapons. You've become more than a story. You've become a signal, a flare in the darkness, a beacon to the silent warriors who've suffered in silence too long. They look at you now and say, if they can rise, so can I. And that is what makes your victory eternal. It's not just the fear you've created, it's the fire you've lit in others. The chain reaction of defiance, of transformation, of rebellion against a world that feeds on submission. You're not just a player anymore, you are the game itself. And anyone who wants to rise now must go through you. That is the price of dominance. That is the weight of greatness. And you wear it like armor because you earned it. Not with shortcuts, not with comfort, but with pain, with sacrifice, with brutal, relentless effort that no one saw. You didn't post about it. You didn't announce every step. You let them think you were quiet. But you were never quiet. You were loading the chamber. And when the moment came, you pulled the trigger on an entire system that thought you were beneath it. Now they adjust their plans because of you. Now they study your every move, hoping to decode the moment you struck. But they never will, because it wasn't just a move. It was a lifetime compressed into a second. It was the accumulation of every moment you refused to die, every second you held on while drowning, every breath you took when you wanted to give up. That's what powered your move. That's why it worked, because it came from a place so deep, so dark, so primal, that no strategy can replicate it. They can copy your words, they can mimic your actions, but they will never duplicate your spirit, because your spirit was forged in places most people never survive. You turned the game upside down with one move, and now the game belongs to you. You dictate the rhythm. You set the terms. You lead not by asking, but by moving, by becoming, by embodying the very thing they tried to kill. You are proof that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it moves like a ghost and then hits like a sledgehammer. Sometimes it wears your face. And when they see that face now, they don't see the version they remember. They see the version they created with their doubt. And they regret every moment they thought you were done. You turned the game upside down with one move, and now your silence echoes louder than their noise ever did. You've become the measure by which all comebacks are judged, not because you screamed, not because you begged to be seen, but because you moved with such intent, such conviction, that the entire system cracked under the weight of your return. They used to measure time in seasons, in years, but now they measure it in before you moved and after you moved. That's how deep you cut. That's how hard you hit. That's how much you disrupted the world that once thrived off your silence. And the best part is, you didn't just take your seat at the table. You built your own table, burned theirs, paved over the ashes. You created a space where you no longer have to shrink to fit their comfort, where you no longer have to bite your tongue to spare their insecurities. You speak now with fire. You walk now with death in your stride, not because you seek destruction, but because they made the mistake of trying to destroy you. And now, you carry their failure like a torch. You're not cruel. You're just finished pretending. You're not heartless. You just stopped offering pieces of yourself to those who only came to feed. The power in you now, it's permanent. It's not some temporary high or some superficial transformation. It's etched into the marrow of your bones. It's in how you move, how you choose, how you breathe. You became deliberate, efficient, surgical. You've removed everything that once held you back. Doubt, hesitation, the need for approval. They were chains, and now they're dust at your feet. You broke them not with fury, but with evolution. You outgrew them. You stepped over the ruins of your former self without shedding a tear, because you knew the truth. Growth hurts, but staying small hurts more. And maybe they'll never say it out loud, but they feel it. The shift, the power imbalance, the dread of knowing that the one they betrayed, the one they dismissed, the one they tried to erase, has returned not just whole, but ascended. They feel your presence like pressure in the air before the thunder hits. They feel your footsteps before they hear them. You no longer chase anything, because what's meant for you bends under your will. You've entered the stage where the universe no longer ignores you. It watches you. It waits for your command. Because you proved you can wield chaos without flinching. You turned the game upside down with one move, and you didn't even flinch when the pieces flew. Because you were never attached to their version of order. You were never interested in playing fair. You were interested in playing real. And reality is brutal. Reality is cruel. Reality doesn't reward the loudest voice. It rewards the most relentless. And you, my alpha family, are relentless. You've walked across coals they couldn't survive. You've kept moving when your soul screamed for rest. You've learned to breathe in dark places and remain calm in burning buildings. And now, you walk like someone who has nothing to prove, but everything to claim. This is what they never understood. That monsters are not born in brightness. They're made in shadows. And you spent enough time in the dark to know how to own it. You learned to see with no light, to strike with no sound. You became a nightmare not by choice, but by design. And they don't know how to fight nightmares. They don't know how to kill what they can't predict. You made yourself into a myth, and now they sit in rooms you'll never enter again, whispering stories about your rise, trying to piece together how they missed the signs. But it's too late now. The move has been made. The shift has happened. And their confusion is your victory. They'll say you're different now. You are. They'll say you're distant now. You are. They'll say you're cold now. And you are. Because warmth is a gift, not a default. And you no longer offer it freely. You've become selective with your light, intentional with your love, strategic with your presence. Because now you understand that not everyone deserves access. Not everyone gets to stand beside you. Because proximity to power is not a right. It's earned. And you've paid your price in full. You've bled for your insight. You've wept for your strength. You've sacrificed for your elevation. So now, you no longer negotiate with mediocrity. You no longer explain yourself to the weak. You turn the game upside down with one move. And now, you own every outcome that follows. Win or lose, it's your design. Success or failure, it's on your terms. And that freedom, that terrifying, liberating power is what makes you truly untouchable. Because even in defeat, you remain dangerous. Even in silence, you remain dominant. You found peace, not in comfort, but in control, in self-mastery, in the knowledge that you'll never again allow yourself to be broken by someone who hasn't even built themselves. So stand tall now, not in pride, but in clarity, in the unshakable awareness of who you've become. Look around at what you've built from nothing. Look at the empire rising behind you, the whispers turning to roars, the people waking up because of your fire. You turn the game upside down with one move, and now the whole damn world knows your name. And whether they cheer or curse when they say it, it no longer matters. Because you no longer need their love. You no longer need their acceptance. You've transcended the need to be understood. You are the alpha. You are the storm. You are the proof that even when the system is rigged, even when the deck is stacked, even when everything is against you, one move made with total conviction, with total power, with total clarity, can change everything. You turn the game upside down. Now own it, forever.